Welcome to Interview Connections. We're the first ever podcast booking agency. I'm Jessica Rhodes, the founder. And 12 years ago in 2013, I started booking my dad as a guest on podcasts because I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And fast forward to today, we're a multi-seven-figure agency. We've worked with over 800 clients. We've booked more than 30,000 podcast interviews. And this podcast is all of our top lessons from the last 12 years, booking entrepreneurs on podcasts, scaling our company to be multi-seven figures a year, distilled down into bite-sized topics and episodes to help you learn from us. I co-host this show with Interview Connections co-owner and CEO, Margy. And without further ado, let's dive into today's episode.
In today's episode, we're going to be talking about visibility and the nervous system, combining two of our passions. Why is visibility on podcasts inherently kind of scary and kind of threatening, and something that it's very easy to avoid or be inconsistent with? So we're going to break that down and talk about how you can create more safety around visibility so that you can expand your impact.
Yeah, this is going to be such a helpful topic. If you have not studied the nervous system, I think that today's episode is going to help you see why there may be times where you can see that you have held yourself back or chosen not to get visible, and see it from a new perspective. So I'm excited to dig into this.
Yes, I think the best thing about this lens is that it takes away a lot of the shame and blame. This is not a personal problem. So if you have been inconsistent with your visibility, or you have a lot of resistance to getting visible, and that could be in anything. It could be in posting on social media, going live. We're going to be talking about podcast guesting specifically because that's our focus. And we see a lot of really incredible entrepreneurs who hold back from getting visible on podcasts because their nervous system is trying to protect them. So when we look at it through the lens of the nervous system, it relieves that shame, that idea that there's something wrong with you because you should be more consistent, you should be getting visible. And by breaking this down, we can make it easier to approach it. So Jess and I are both super passionate about the nervous system. I co-own another company now called brainbase.com, which has a great membership where you can work with your nervous system every day. Highly recommend that. But at a really high level, we're not going to go into like deep brain science or anything like that. But at the highest level, your brain is designed to keep you safe. It is not designed to have you live this big, incredible life where you make tons of money and have millions of eyes on you and have a huge impact. That is not ideal because the brain wants you to live. And the safest thing is for you to have kind of a small life and be kind of quiet and not have a ton of eyes on you. That minimizes threat. So when we have a big mission that we're passionate about and we have a business that we want to grow and we feel this calling, we're coming directly up against our brain's desire for safety that wants to keep us small and safe. And what we know is calling us, which is this bigger mission, this bigger impact, which almost always requires bigger visibility. And so when we push against our nervous system, when we say, I'm just going to do it, I'm just going to, without creating safety, I'm just going to force myself to get visible, that's when you get burnout. That's when you might see you're really consistent, but then you totally pull back and you disappear for months, or you do the things, you do the stuff you're supposed to do, you get interviewed on a podcast, but then you get a migraine, or you find yourself overeating or drinking too much wine afterwards. These are some of the things we see when someone doesn't have safety in their nervous system around visibility.
Yeah, and I think it's helpful when I was learning first about this to see kind of the extreme of like, why does our brain feel this lack of safety with visibility? And a lot of this might not be top of mind or something that you're thinking about all the time, but I love a topical reference. I know this is an evergreen podcast, so this may be old news, but as we're recording this yesterday, viral on social media is the scandal with the CEO and the head of HR of this big company that were shown at the Coldplay concert having an affair. And that's a prime example of how visibility is not safe. They were very, very visible. and now things for them are very, very bad. And so that is a very extreme example, and probably one that the vast majority of us cannot relate to. But I do think that we see stuff like that, and our survival brain is like, that's why visibility is not safe, because really bad things could happen. You could have the entire internet talking horribly about you. And so knowing that we see that, we can regulate our nervous system to feel safe in the type of visibility that we are going to get for our businesses.
Yes, that is a great point. And like you're saying, the world is full of evidence that visibility is dangerous. One of our brain's key objectives is maintaining social connection. Almost above anything else, your brain wants to maintain social connection. And when you are really visible, you're going to have more people criticizing you. You are going to have more people when you're small and it's just the people that you know really well. Everyone's like, you're amazing. Everything you do is great. As you get visible to more people who don't know you, you're going to get in front of people who don't agree with you. And some of them might not be nice about that. Some of them might just be in a bad place themselves and taking it out on you. But that is very threatening to the brain. The brain is definitely not designed for like modern social media trolling. It triggers a lot of shame. It triggers a lot of fear. It's really upsetting. And so you have to expand your capacity and work with your nervous system to regulate and create safety around these different levels. Because like you're saying, Jess, there's a lot of reasons why the brain knows that visibility is dangerous. If more people see us, they could hurt us. If people think that we're doing really well, they're going to dehumanize us. We see this all the time. People treat celebrities and successful people as if they are not human, as if they are there for entertainment. We are all scared of that, right? None of us want to be dehumanized because we've reached a certain level of success. None of us want people on the internet telling us that we're terrible or we're wrong or what we're doing is irresponsible or stupid or just picking apart how we look. All of this stuff is legitimately threatening, and it's by facing that this is threatening and working with our nervous system that we can start to expand our visibility, expand our impact, even while holding these fears. And when you try to muscle through it or use mindset to overcome stuff like this, it is not sustainable. But when we work with our nervous system to create safety, we can actually expand in a way that is sustainable.
Yeah, and I think sometimes, not to say that these are bad ideas, but like you said, an example of, I think, muscling through it and just pushing through the feeling that this isn't safe is like a 30-day challenge. Just go live for 30 days. Just like do it. Just do it. But if you are not regulating your nervous system around you facing your fear, you could end that 30-day live challenge and being like, oh my God, I need to sleep. I need to disassociate. I need to scroll on social media. I need to not be visible for a whole month. And so that's why regulating your nervous system is so important, because you want to be visible. And as you're visible, expand your capacity, feel safer rather than like pushing really hard and doing it and then needing to have the pendulum swing back in the other direction.
Yes, we don't want to get the boomerang effect. We don't want to cause outputs like migraines and stress. And it's similar to if you deprive yourself of food. If you say for 30 days, I'm going to go on a cleanse or I'm going to eat almost nothing. I mean, first of all, please don't do that. But if you do that, what you'll probably find is at a certain point, your brain is going to override you because what you're doing is very threatening to your survival. And you're going to end up eating way more than what you would have eaten if you were just eating normally. So there's like that boomerang effect. If you push too hard without creating safety, you end up taking one step forward and two steps back. Podcast guesting, I personally think, is a really nice minimum effective dose way to get visibility. It's very cozy, right? It's like you and the host are on Zoom. The host is someone who is listening to you, who's interested in what you do. And it's so conversational. It's so supportive. Podcast communities tend to be really supportive. Of course, the bigger a show gets, the more there is obviously a risk for negativity. But I think even more so than going live and stuff like that, that can be really threatening. I think podcast guesting is a great way to expand your capacity for visibility. in a very safe and cozy way that gets you in front of a bunch of people, but in a way that feels safer. And then you can create safety around that and continue to expand to speaking on stages, going live, whatever the other things that you want to be doing are.
Yeah, and I love visualizing podcast audiences and thinking about the difference of how much safer it is. Like Margy and I are recording this in our home offices. I'm barefoot. I'm very comfortable. I'm home. I can see my child in the other room. And there will be about 500 people who listen to this conversation. If we were on a stage with 500 people watching us have this conversation, my heart would be beating. I'd probably be sweating a little bit. I'd be nervous before. I'd be really stressed afterwards, need to work through the adrenaline. But I'm so safe right now getting the same amount of visibility to the same number of people than I would if I were live on a stage in a very different context.
Yes. And you'd be in uncomfortable shoes probably.
Oh my God, I'd be in heels. I'd hate it.
Yeah. So part of it is leaning into podcast guesting, which of course we're biased, but it is really great. It builds your impact and your visibility. And it's also just lovely in terms of creating a pretty safe environment for visibility, for flexing that muscle. The other thing is we want to speak to our nervous system. So not have everything be cognitive, but be working directly with our body and with our nervous system to create safety. So we're not going to go super deep in how to do that. Check out brainbase.com. There's a free 2-week trial of the membership. Doing those neurosomatic applied neurology drills and the somatics on that site will help you create safety every single day. So as you're doing things like getting on podcasts to expand your business, it will help you create that safety to make it sustainable to keep growing. But in a nutshell, what I would do leading up to a podcast interview, especially one that I'm nervous about, is I would do some applied neurology drills that would help me regulate my system. I would feel my body kind of relax. When I'm on the podcast, I'll often see, can I feel my feet? To just reground myself in the moment if I'm starting to get up in my head or talking too fast or thinking too fast. And then after the podcast, I'm going to do something to release the stress and re-regulate. So after you get off, it could be as simple as stomping around, swaying your arms, kind of shaking it, moving the stress through your body. You could go for a walk. And by having those little rituals, it seems like a little thing, but that's communicating with your body and nervous system that this is safe. And the more that you do that, the easier it's going to be to get visible in front of bigger and bigger audiences and grow your impact without experiencing that boomerang effect where you then have to shut everything down and you don't want to be visible at all, or getting a migraine or whatever that output is.
Yeah, I highly recommend the brainbase.com, the Rewire membership. I use it every single day. It is incredibly affordable. You can all get it, and I highly recommend it because it really will expand your capacity. And just what this looks like before podcast guesting, if you financially can invest in podcast guesting, your business is ready, but you haven't yet done it, there's probably kind of a nervous system reason why your body is and your brain is saying don't do this yet, and kind of coming up with reasons and excuses. And that's why I love that we provide this as a done for you service, because the boomerang effect can look like, okay, I am going to muscle up the energy. I'm going to pitch a bunch of podcasts and do it, and then you just stop doing it. You do it yourself, you muscle it up. But when you work with a booking agent, you have Interview Connections book you on podcasts, you are protected from the rejection. You're protected from all of the work of having to find the podcast and figure it out and just constantly face it. You can just have the bookings delivered to you. So there are so many ways to be supported in this journey, from brain-based and regulating your nervous system, and then having a partner, having a booking agent, Interview Connections, who's actually doing the work to get you booked, keeping you safe as you're getting more and more visibility for your business.
Yes. And again, just like Jess is saying, if you're not sure, is my nervous system resisting visibility, you're going to see inconsistency or total avoidance. So you're avoiding getting visible. The other big nervous system red flag in business and in visibility is perfectionism. So if you know that you've been saying, well, once I have this, I'm going to go live with it. Okay, well, I did the new website, but I want to set up this funnel and then I'm going to get visible. Okay, well, I set up the funnel, but I feel like I want to finesse this, then I'm going to get visible. Of course, you want to have a couple basic things in place to convert your audience when you're podcast guesting, but keep it very simple. If you are going beyond that, if you are overthinking, if you're like, okay, I'm going to do it. Okay, wait, I'm not going to do it. There's some perfectionism there, because podcast guesting, like everything else in life and business, you only get good by doing it. And I'm so sorry to tell you that, but no amount of polishing up and trying to make things as perfect as possible is going to make it easier to get out there and try it. And how you sound on your first interview and how you sound on your 40th interview, probably going to be really different. You may even pivot your messaging. You may pivot your offer with this new information, but you can't get there without getting started.
Awesome. All right. I hope this was so helpful to everyone. And we are here to help you get visible in a really nice, cozy, safe way. So your action steps are to go to brainbase.com and start your free 2-week trial and learn about how to regulate your nervous system every single day with little trainings. And interviewconnections.com. When you are ready to get booked on podcasts and work with us, you can go to interviewconnections.com to book a free consultation call.